5 bone-chilling rules every night train conductor must follow to survive the midnight ride. The whistle shrieked through the darkened landscape, a haunting echo that seemed to promise doom. Each night, hidden in the depths of the mountains, the Midnight Express rumbled alive, and the only thing standing between the living and the unthinkable were the 5 bone-chilling rules that drove every conductor's heart to race. The flickering lanterns cast eerie shadows as they danced along the carriage walls, and pried at the edges of reality, whispering stories of lost souls and the damned. Each man who stepped into the cab knew that one mistake could mean peril. Sometimes, the very darkness seemed to press in, clawing at their sanity, ready to claim them as its own. One rule loomed larger than the others: never look into the mirror during the witching hour. Legends whispered that anyone who dared to peek would see the spirits of those who had died on these tracks. A chill ran down Samuel's spine the first time he had glimpsed into that cracked glass. A face, not his own, smiled back, its eyes hollow and filled with despair. He had almost lost his grip on the controls, heart hammering against his ribcage like a trapped bird. He could still hear the crowd's anxious murmurs from the last station, a roiling dread in their voices. What if it's true? What if he's next? As the midnight countdown drew near, Sam's mind twisted into knots. The clock ticked quietly, reminding him of every journey he'd ever taken, every moment that had led him here, like a giant hand moving him toward an inevitable doom. Did his fellow conductors feel it too? The weight of something sinister lurking just outside? The second rule said, hold your breath at the tunnels. They were graveyards of lost expectations, places where time warped and sanity frayed, and many had sworn they heard whispers there that promised a descent into madness. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As he barreled through a narrow tunnel, the shadows swallowed him whole. Breathless, he felt that familiar tightening in his chest, panic rising like bile. The air crackled with unearthly whispers, thick and acrid, urging him to turn back, to just stop the train. But rule number 3 forbade him from reversing course. Once you start, you must finish, forever committed to the track, threading through the darkness, through the very essence of fear. Adrenaline coursed through him as he thought of rule 4, never engage with the passengers after midnight. A simple glance might invite them in, and if the stories held any weight, accepting them could mean eternal damnation. Suddenly, an unexpected noise crept into the cab, a soft, rhythmic tap-tap-tap. Was that a knock, or the sound of his sanity unraveling? With a lump in his throat, Sam swallowed hard and refused to look away from the glowing tracks ahead. And Rule 5 echoed ominously in his mind: only the brave survive the ride. But what did bravery truly mean? As he careened towards the next station, an idea, almost as vivid as the spectral faces he feared, took root. What if the rules themselves were a trap? What if he could outsmart the darkness, shift the narrative of terror? Just as the thought solidified, a violent jolt rattled the train. The lights flickered and went out. Sam's world plunged into black as panic seized him. What waited in the shadows that danced beyond the cold glass? What horrors lurked beyond the edge of sanity? The train hurtled onward into certain doom, leaving only one burning question: would he survive to whisper those cursed rules to another soul? Total darkness engulfed Sam. The howling wind echoed through the cab, and the train's metal frame creaked ominously. His hands trembled around the cold, unyielding controls. Panic surged through him, thick and suffocating. He fought to remember the rules, buried under a rising tide of fear, the very rules meant to keep him alive. Suddenly, from deep within the abyss, a flicker of light appeared, a faint glow vibrating in the distance. It shimmered like a distant star, a promise of hope amidst the encroaching dread. Desperation clawed at him. He couldn't let the train spiral into chaos. He took a breath, a shaky breath, and gripped the throttle tighter with more resolve than before. His heart raced as he leaned closer to the console. The tiny light loomed larger, illuminating the approaching tunnel's mouth. Weaving shadows twisted and beckoned, threatening to snatch away reason. Yet, as the darkness roared, he felt something else, a whisper of certainty. Maybe, just maybe, the rules could be bent. Before he could think it through, he slammed the throttle forward, propelling the Midnight Express into the dark tunnel. The light flickered, dimming, almost mocking him as he rushed toward it. An odd sense of wickedness settled in. He shut his eyes for a fraction of a second, prepared for the onslaught of whispers that were sure to rise from the depths. They came, wrapped in a haunting melody that spoke in voices he both recognized and feared. Sam's name drifted past him like smoke, coiling around his mind. Could they see him? Was he truly alone, or was he sharing the cab with wretched souls? It was then that he recalled rule number 2, hold your breath at the tunnels. With trembling lips pressed tightly together, he stifled any sound, but the melody grew in intensity, drowning out his thoughts. Just as he thought he would pass out, the radiant light surged forward, blinding him. Then, everything changed. The train screeched to a halt, the grinding metal gnawing at his senses. For a heartbeat, there was an eerie silence, swallowing the whispers whole, but then crash. A sudden force, a wave of ice, shot through the air. Sam gasped. The lights surged back, bright and harsh, illuminating the carriage in an unsettling hue. A figure loomed at the entrance of the cab, a dark silhouette, wearing an old conductor's uniform, face shrouded in shadows. Sam froze like a deer caught in headlights. The figure stepped forward, and the glow from the lantern glinted off a smirk that seemed too wide, too knowing. "You've seen the light," it said, voice dripping with an unholy glee. "Care to join the ride?" All the questions he had fought against poured forward in a torrent. What was this creature? An echo of a lost soul? A warning? And where were the other passengers? Panic rocketed through his system, his muscles fought between fleeing or confronting this entity. The clock chimed ominously, the witching hour seeming to close in again. Sam had to decide: follow the path of the rules, or break free from their chains. What lay beyond that smirk? Eternal damnation or salvation? With a quaking heart, he prepared to respond, but before the words could escape his mouth, the lights flickered once more, plunging him into a world not his own, where everything twisted and turned at the edges, and the figure loomed closer. What awaited him in that chilling darkness? Was this the final stop, or merely the beginning of a graver ride? The flash of light subsided, and Sam's world shifted again, the physics of his reality warping under the weight of the conductor's presence. The figure loomed large, its uniform tattered, stained with the weight of memories long gone. The smirk widened, revealing teeth that glimmered like shattered glass, sharp and unnerving. "Join the ride, Sam," it repeated, the air around them thick with an unholy allure. Sam felt the pulse of the train beneath him, a heart thumping against the steel, drowning the cacophony of fear rattling in his chest. He stepped back, instinct pulling him away from the wretched shadow. "Who are you?" His voice barely broke through the tension, quaking with uncertainty. "Just a fellow traveler on this cursed railway," the figure replied smoothly, its tone silky and unsettling. "We're caught in the same dance, you and I. The question is whether you'll lead or follow." With each word, the shadows crept closer, clawing at the edges of Sam's reality. The dim light of the lantern promised warmth, yet it was far colder than the depths of the abyss. Sam's mind raced. The rules. Were they meant to protect him or entrap him? Where had they led him but deeper into this nightmare? "What do you want from me?" He pressed, fists clenched tightly around the console. "Only what the train desires," it hissed, laughter bubbling from its throat like broken glass. "Life, death, a little chaos." Without warning, the cab shuddered, the lights flickering violently. Sam stumbled as shadows lunged around him, morphing into faces, ghostly visages of those who had ridden the Midnight Express before him. Their eyes were empty pits, souls seemingly trapped in purgatory, seeking release. "No!" Sam shouted, edging toward the door. A surge of adrenaline pushed him as he grasped the handle. He needed to escape. They needed to escape. Yet, the sound of a loud bell echoed through the carriage, locking him in place. He turned back to the figure, who hadn't moved an inch, its smirk unyielding. "What happens if I leave?" he questioned, voice nearly lost amid the growing storm of whispers. "Oh, but you're already part of the journey," the conductor taunted. "You can't abandon what binds you, Sam. Not here." Sam took a deep breath, shaking off the cold dread crawling up his spine. Maybe he could turn this around. Perhaps the way through this nightmare lay in confronting it head-on. "Tell me the rules," he demanded, stepping forward into the lantern's glow. "What are they?" The conductor's grin widened, revealing more of those jagged teeth. "Ah, the curious survivor. It's been a while since anyone sought knowledge," it crooned. "Very well. Rule number 1, respect the dead. They ride with you. Always." Images of the faces encircling him burned into Sam's mind. Each one had a story, a life stolen from time. Rheum surged in his throat, and he fought against the rising bile. 2. The train must never stop. Momentum is your salvation, the figure continued, voice laced with mockery. 3. If you hear whispers, always listen. They'll guide you or mislead you, it added sinisterly. 4. When the light appears, tread carefully. Its warmth can deceive, it warned, leaning in closer, breath cold against Sam's cheek. And 5. It paused for dramatic effect, never trust a passenger. They are not what they seem. The air went grave silent. Sam's heart pounded hard, unyielding, as pieces of the puzzle fell together. What lay at the end of this road? What price would he pay for knowledge? He felt a tremor in his gut. Sam needed to choose. The whispers of the lost clamored for attention, and beneath it all, the conductor's smirk remained a taunt, an invitation, a warning. "Are you ready to embrace the ride, Sam?" The conductor's voice turned to silk, smooth but malice danced just below the surface. Sam's breath caught, and shadows thickened around him. What lay ahead could tear him apart or bind him deeply to the Midnight Express forever. But before he could decide, the train jolted again. The lights flickered violently, and time itself seemed to collapse like a pack of cards. He realized he was running out of time for any choice. The flickering lights dimmed to near blackness again, and from that utter darkness, a new sound emerged, a low, rumbling growl that sent a chill streaking through him. What had awakened in the depths? The night was young, but the chaos promised something darker yet to come. The train's growl grew louder, vibrating through Sam's very bones. What had been a mere eerie sound now morphed into a threatening roar, reverberating off the steel walls of the railway cab like an omen. He squeezed his eyes shut, recalling the conductor's 5 harrowing rules, but confusion tangled with fear. The voices of the departed echoed, urging him to respect them, but how could he when all he could hear were their whispers turning into anguished cries? Through the dim blur of darkness, he caught sight of something shifting, a shadow flickering in and out of existence, just beyond the lantern's feeble glow. Heart racing, Sam dared to step closer, his pulse echoing in his ears like a drum. "Face it," the conductor's voice, now like ice slicing through smoke, echoed from the shadows. "You cannot escape your fate." The moment he stood before the shadow, it coalesced into what looked like a young woman, her face etched with pain, a ghost, another victim of the Midnight Express. Her eyes, hollow and lost, bore into his soul. "Help us," she whispered, her voice a fragile thread pulling him. "You have to keep the train moving. You can't let the darkness take control." Sam's breath quickened. The urgency in her words gripped him, channeled through the warmth of the newfound connection. The train beneath him rattled violently, shaking as if in response to her plea. He could hear it, the dark entity hungry for chaos, stirring, clawing its way back into the world. "Stay here and you'll be one of them," she continued, eyes pleading. "You must decide quickly. The darkness is already tasting your fear." The conductor's laughter echoed through the carriage, taunting and spiraling into madness. "What will you do, Sam? The train runs on choice, on your doubts. Choose wisely, and you might spare yourself or seal your doom." He felt the weight of the glowing lantern, its light flickering dangerously, revealing glimpses of the other apparitions surrounding him. They were countless, each face a story etched into the fabric of the train. And yet, their sorrow hung heavy in the air, a mirror reflecting his own impending doom. Sam staggered back, looking between the conductor's grin and the desperate eyes of the ghosts. They were both waiting for him, an impossible decision dangling like a fragile thread over a dark abyss. To respect the dead felt noble, but what did it mean in a place where the rules bent to wicked whims? "Join us," the woman's voice beckoned, insistent. "Help us escape this nightmare." Escape? He breathed, grappling with the words. He found himself drawn ever closer to the light, the warmth tempting him despite the dread growing in his heart. Then, an idea sparked. What if I could save you all? What if I could break the train's hold? The conductor's laughter fell silent, replaced by an eerie stillness that deafened him. Break the cycle? It's been centuries. Who do you think you are? Someone who won to be trapped by your rules, Sam declared, feeling a new fire ignite within him. In a moment reminiscent of storm clouds gathering, the air around him thickened. The shadows trembled with anticipation, and he sensed that the train, the conductor, and the restless souls were sharing a single, collective breath waiting for his command. Then what? He shot back, eyes narrowing. What happens if I refuse to give in? The growl returned, more menacing, echoing an ancient truth woven into the very steel of the train. The walls shuddered violently, a pulse of darkness flickering back to life. As he braced for impact, the reality around him warped, and he realized this was more than choice, this was a fight for his soul. The train rattled fiercely, pulling them all down a path too dark to fathom. Sam held his breath, steeling against the tide of chaos awakening around him. Was he ready to confront the truth of the Midnight Express? The very notion threatened to unravel him, yet he felt a flicker of determination. "Just tell me how to break free," he shouted, a desperate plea against the approaching dark. As the train lurched forward, swallowing his words, the flickering lantern erupted into blinding light. What had been shadows transformed into blurs of color. He was being hurled through a furious storm that would challenge everything he thought he knew. When the light swallowed him completely, darkness loomed, whispering promises of chaos. But now, Sam was ready to face it, or so he hoped. Still, a lurking doubt clawed at the back of his mind, and in the swirling maelstrom around him, he wondered if he'd made a grave mistake. The lights faded, and once more he found himself in the haunting silence, a silent scream echoing through the empty railway, the presence of dread wrapped tightly around him. Had he just sealed his fate, or had he merely scratched the surface of something much larger? The real journey was just beginning. The instant the light faded, Sam felt a stinging chill wash over him, as if he'd been cast adrift in a sea of despair. He blinked rapidly, disoriented, trying to regain his bearings. The shadows loomed around him thick and cloying, a fog of whispers clawing at his sanity. "Where am I?" he uttered, his voice wavering, uncertain. The world around him shifted uneasily, pieces of the train's interior warping and twisting like a dream gone wrong. The air shimmered, then quivered with a defensive tension. He stood alone, the conductor's laughter echoing in the distance, now a cruel reminder of the choice he had to make. The specter of the woman lingered at the edges of his mind, her desperate plea a jarring melody against the haunting silence. Out of the gloom, shards of light began to seep through. As they brightened, Sam could see the faces of the other spirits pressing in closer, their eyes shimmering with a mix of expectation and fear. They were trapped in an endless loop, and he sensed their energy pulsing, resonating with the train's metal frame. "Sam!" A voice broke through the gathering shadows. He turned towards the sound. Another ghost emerged, a man this time, with anguish carved deep into his features. "You need to keep the train moving, or we're all doomed." "What does that even mean?" Sam shot back, frustration boiling to the surface. "The Midnight Express feeds on fear. It thrives on the doubts you carry," the man explained, urgency lacing his tone. "You must confront the darkness. It's trying to take hold. If it gains the upper hand, there will be no returning for any of us." The word struck him like a slap. He glanced around, noticing the flickering of the lantern overhead growing dim. The shadows writhed impatiently, and Sam's resolve started to waver. "Is it true?" he whispered, every fiber of his being tingling with dread. "Can I break this cycle?" A cacophony of voices surged around him, strident, anguished cries that felt like a storm unleashed. "Break the cycle!" they urged, their hopes clinging to him like tendrils of smoke. The train shuddered, metal groaning in response, as if the very machinery was aware of his hesitation. The growl of the engine morphed into a low snarl, and Sam felt it inside, a gnawing terror that threatened to consume him from the inside out. "Face the truth." The woman's voice whispered again, echoing through the din. "Evil is not always an external force. Sometimes, it festers within in the choices we make." For an agonizing moment, all went still. The silence was deafening, even the train seemed to hold its breath. As dread twisted in his gut, Sam caught a glimpse of dark whispers swirling around the spirits, inching ever closer, each accusing him, each pleading for help. "All right," he shouted, resolution hardening his voice. "I'll confront it. Show me how to take control of this train." With that proclamation, the lantern burst back to life, casting out the shadows like a flame ignites the night. The energy shifted, swirling around him, and he could feel an ancient power awakening in the depths of the train. But it came with a price. The darkness grew restless, an insidious force erupting in defiance. The train lurched, throwing Sam against the wall. He grabbed onto a metal handrail, shaking in the icy grip of fear. "What is going on?" "Fueling your fear," the man yelled, his voice barely audible over the chaos. "You need to ground yourself. Bind the light to your will." Sam squeezed his eyes shut, breathing deeply, fighting against the creeping horror. The faces of the lost souls filled his mind, each one a story of what had been lives unfinished, voices demanding closure. They needed him. "Enough!" he roared, focusing on the lantern. The light amplified, pushing back against the dark torrents swirling around. He envisioned every ounce of his strength, drawing from the flickers of hope and defiance thrumming within him. But just as he felt the power swirling to his fingertips, the ground beneath him shattered and the train lurched again, throwing him into darkness once more. What had he unleashed? The last thing he saw before the light collapsed was the grinning face of the conductor emerging from the shadows, a man with chaos burning in his eyes. "Welcome back, Sam," he sneered, a sickly delight curling his lips. "It seems we have more work to do." As the darkness wrapped tightly around him, Sam wondered if his fight for freedom had only begun, and what haunting secrets still lay ahead on the Midnight Express. What awaited him in the depths of his own making? The darkness swallowed him whole, a shroud of silence wrapping tightly around Sam as he plummeted into the void. Panic washed over him in waves, each heartbeat echoing through the emptiness like a distant drum. He gasped, lungs burning, feeling for any hint of warmth or light. Then, without warning, a thunderous jolt sent him crashing back against the unforgiving metal of the train. He landed hard, breath knocked out of him, and the world flickered back into view. The lantern was dim, its feeble glow creating a small oasis of light amidst the turmoil. "Stay focused." The man's voice pierced through the haze, pulling him back to reality. "You have to channel your fear." Sam fought to steady his racing heart, yet a creeping dread coiled tightly in his stomach. The train rattled ominously, as if it were alive, thrumming against a monstrous heartbeat. He grasped at the rail, searching for strength in the cool, hard metal. "Confront it?" he shouted, voice wavering. "What does that even look like?" The man's eyes widened, desperation flaring. "You'll know when you see it. The shadows feed on your doubt. If you give in, the darkness will consume not just you, but all of us." The tension in the air thickened as the train's speed increased, curves and jerks slinging Sam wildly. Faces of agony flickered past him in the shadows, specters who had fought and lost. Their wisps of fear shifted like dark smoke, swirling dangerously around him. "What do you want from me?" he yelled, desperation coloring his voice. "Look inside," the man implored. "What have you buried? What choices haunt you? You must bring them into the light." The train morphed, bending reality. Each carriage twisted into grotesque forms, each representing a fragment of Sam's life, a childhood dream dashed, a loved one abandoned. He stumbled to his feet, feeling the heat of confrontation rising. Then, a swirl of shadow coalesced before him, blossoming into vision, a reflection of his past, distorted and angry. It was a version of himself he'd buried deep, the mistakes, the betrayals, the moments he wished he could take back. The image smirked back at him, taunting. "Look who it is." The specter jeered, voice dripping with derision. "The coward who runs from his own demons. Why bother fighting? This is who you are." Sam's breath hitched. Muffled whispers beckoned from the darkness, urging him to retreat, to succumb to the frost gnawing at his spirit. Fear clawed at him, a visceral reminder of his flaws. "No!" Sam shouted, summoning what little courage he had left. "You don't define me." As the words sliced through the air, the train shuddered violently, rattling like a beast awakened. The light from the lantern flared brighter, illuminating the ghostly faces around him, hope igniting in their eyes. "You can do it, Sam. Bind the light." They chorused, their voices overlapping like a harmonic chant. Summoning the strength of his regret, Sam forced himself to confront the darkness, each pain, each fault laid bare. He thrust out his hands, feeling the tremors of the shadows before him. Light erupted from his palms, pushing against the creeping tendrils, illuminating the chamber in a blaze of clarity. The specter screamed, its form distorting as the brilliance of Sam's resolve clashed against it. For the first time, the shadows recoiled, and he felt an unshakable power surging through him, but just as he breathed a sigh of relief, the train jerked again, a violent lurch that sent him sprawling onto the floor. The darkness roared back, even angrier this time, hungrily circling him, seeking weakness. "Don't let it drag you down," the man shouted, panic rising once more in his voice. Scrambling back to his feet, Sam's heart raced. The darkness was closing in, clawing at his resolve. Where was the strength he'd just summoned? Then, amidst the chaos, he felt a guiding flicker, the warmth of his own light, at the core of everything he had faced. And just as he steadied himself, those haunting grins of the conductor twisted back into view, sneering from the edges of the shadows. "Such fun we're having," he cackled, his eyes wild with anticipation. "But the real game is just beginning, Sam. Are you ready to play?" The train plunged further into darkness, and terror gripped Sam's heart. With each beat, he realized the next revelation would force him to uncover the deepest pit of the human soul, and what horrors awaited him at the end of this nightmarish ride. The train's metal body screamed as it twisted through the void, sending a shockwave of anxiety rattling through Sam's limbs. The conductor's words resonated in his mind like a relentless drum, drowning out the chaos for just a heartbeat. Was he ready to play? He gritted his teeth, urgency coursing through him. Shadows pulsed from every corner, whispering his secrets back to him in mocking tones. Unforgiving reminders of the times he had failed, the promises he had broken, wrapped around him like chains. The man was shouting something, but the din of the train drowned out his voice. Sam turned, scanning the car for help. "What do we do?" His voice was thin, caught somewhere between panic and resolve. "Don't let their lies take root," the man yelled, eyes wide with fear. "Remember who you are." Amidst his dread, a flicker of clarity struck Sam like lightning. The warmth he felt before had not vanished. It pulsed deep within him, urging him to move. This was more than just a confrontation with his past, it was about seizing control over his future. He stepped forward, channeling the fear into something tangible. The shadows recoiled, hissing as if in pain. He thrust out his hands again, this time with intention, and shouted, "I am not my mistakes." Light erupted from him once more, bright enough to disperse the shadows, illuminating the train car with pure luminescence. The haunting faces around him seemed to shimmer, and for the first time, Sam saw them not as lost souls but as fellow fighters. As the light pushed back, the conductor's laughter echoed through the car, a twisted reminder of the stakes at play. "Oh Sam, do you think the light will save you? This is just the beginning." The train lurched violently, throwing Sam against the wall. He landed hard, the air knocked from his lungs. As he gasped for breath, shadows swirled around him. They began to meld together, forming a grotesque tableau, a reflection of nightmares and desires intertwined. "Choose," the conductor taunted, pacing like a predator. "Give in to the darkness or fight for the light. What will it be?" Sam's mind raced. Each shadow before him whispered his regrets. Did he dare choose them? Did he dare embrace the parts of himself he had buried deep? No. He yelled, pushing against the floor, forcing himself to rise. He remembered his family, the ones he loved, the dreams he once held. "I choose to live. I choose to fight." With those words, the light surged once more, brighter than before, fueled by something deeper than fear, hope. Hope for himself, for the lost souls left in shadows. The train shuddered, and as the light emanated from him, he felt the darkness retreating. But the conductor stood firm, his grin widening. "You think you can escape? This is not just any game, Sam. It's a reckoning." Sam's heart raced as he felt the fabric of reality around him fray, like a thread pulled too tightly. The train began to glitch, each jolt magnifying the tension within him. The shadows howled, their wails transforming into something more fierce that he turned to the man who had guided him. "What do we do now?" Before he could answer, the world morphed again, and Sam found himself not in the train but standing before a door with a faint glow. The silhouette of his spectre hovered nearby, shadowed and sinister. It whispered, "Unlock the truth, Sam. Behind this door lies the resolution you seek, or your ultimate demise." With trembling hands, Sam reached for the handle, heart pounding. Was he ready to confront what lay beyond? As the door creaked open, firelight spilled into the darkness. His fate hinged on the moment, on the thread of choice that would either save him or seal him in shadows forever. What lay inside, and would he have the strength to face it? The moment the door swung open, a wave of heat washed over Sam, pushing against him like an invisible wall. The firelight flickered as if alive, casting long, creeping shadows that danced with malice. His heart hammered in his chest, and he could hardly breathe. "What's waiting for me?" The thought prickled at the edges of his mind. He stepped over the threshold, the heat intensifying. The scene unfolded before him, contrasting sharply with the metallic chill of the train. This was a cavernous space, deep and cavernous, illuminated by crimson flames licking at the stone walls, casting an eerie glow on the figures gathered inside. Sam squinted, trying to make sense of what he saw. Shadows flickered and morphed beside the mounting flames, revealing twisted faces that looked familiar yet alien. They were the lost souls, the same ones from the train, but here, they appeared more corporeal, more desperate. They reached for him as if he were a lifeline, arms outstretched, mouths agape in silent screams. "Help us!" they chanted in disconcerting harmony. The noise echoed in his head. The vision around him morphed, coalescing into scenes of his past failures, memories of laughter twisted by regrets, haunting moments that replayed like a broken record. Here was his family, smiling, then the moments he turned from them, friends who once relied on him now shrouded in disappointment. "No!" Sam shouted, trying to drown out their calls. "I won't fall back into this." But it was as if the darkness around him had ears, eagerly listening to his doubts. The shadowy specter loomed closer, its form swirling and shifting, embodying every fear he had ever faced. "You can't escape yourself, Sam. Look at what you've done," it hissed, voice low and taunting that he felt the ground tremble beneath him, flames licking higher, their heat encroaching on his resolve. Sam shook his head, teeth clenched. He needed to fight back. "I am more than my past." He summoned every ounce of strength he had, picturing his family, their smiles brighter than any darkness surrounding him. "I must remember who I am." With a determined cry, he reached deep within, the light from the train flickering to life again, pure and fierce. It shot from his core, expanding outward, combating the despair that filled the space around him. The light surged, illuminating the dark, dispelling their reaching shadows. For a heartbeat, silence reigned. The figures paused, their desperate wails faltering, replaced by gasps of surprise. Sam felt the temperature drop, a sudden breeze cutting through the intense heat, and he exhaled, taking in the relief, but the spectre was not done. It shrieked, writhing in pain, its form twisting chaotically as the light clawed at it. "You cannot deny what you are." It screamed. Sam took a step closer, fueled by an unexpected rage coursing through him. "You do not define me. I define my future." And then bang! The shadows exploded outward, like an unseen force detonating in the caverns of his mind. The wailing figures turned into wisps of smoke, receding into the walls as the cavern began to shake around him. "Your reckoning isn't over," the conductor's voice crackled, echoing like lightning in the dark. "You've barely begun to scratch the surface." With the cavern caving in, Sam made a split-second choice. He sprinted toward an opening in the stone, directionless but driven by instinct. "Sam!" The man from the train's whispers rushed the path alongside him, urging him forward. "We must find the exit." As they raced through the collapsing stone and swirling shadows, a realization struck Sam: this was more than confronting his past. It was about embracing who he could be. But the shadows echoed behind him, and with every step, Sam felt their icy fingers brush against him, warning of their return. Through the smoke and chaos, a low rumble caught his attention. What lay ahead was cloaked in darkness, but the flicker of light at the very end beckoned him. The choice loomed close: would he reach for the light, or sink back into the abyss? He inhaled sharply, determination sparking in his eyes. The world shrank around him, expanding as he raced towards a new unknown. But was it freedom he pursued, or just another trap waiting to ensnare him? Sam's heart raced as he dashed towards the light, its glow pulling him like a moth to a flame. He could feel the creeping shadows behind him, chasing and wrapping around his legs like serpents, whispering doubts and fears in voices that seemed all too familiar. "Go, go!" the man beside him urged, his tone frantic. "You can't let them catch you." With every step, the cavern trembled more violently, rocks crashing down around them, echoing like thunder. Sam didn't dare look back. He focused on the light, a beacon promising safety, clarity, and hope, or so he thought. As he neared the glow, it stretched and distorted, revealing doorways that mirrored his worst nightmares. Each doorway flickered with visions of his past failures, missed opportunities, lost love, moments of weakness. Spirits clawed at the edges of the light, drawn to his essence, their faces twisted, searching for something he couldn't quite grasp. "You're not worthy," they chorused, their voices intertwining with his heartbeat. "No!" Sam shouted again, a defiant roar that rumbled from deep within. He wasn't going to let them hold him back, not anymore. They didn't get to dictate who he was or what he could become. He reached the threshold of light and stepped through, the brightness engulfing him, spinning him around. It felt both liberating and terrifying, like stepping off a cliff into an unseen chasm. For a moment, he was weightless, unmoored from the darkness that had clung to him. But then, the sensation faded. He landed hard, face down on cold stone. The brightness dimmed, and he gasped, the crisp air burning his lungs. Sitting up, he looked around. He was in another cavernous space, vast and hollow, but the ambience was different. No flames danced here. Instead, the walls pulsed in a haunting blue, faint whispers echoing like distant thunder. "Where am I now?" he murmured, the question trembling on his lips. "Welcome," a voice boomed, deep and resonant. "You thought you could escape? These are just the beginning of the layers that bind you." Sam's pulse quickened. The shadows that had chased him melted away, replaced by this presence, confident and omniscient. He could feel its gaze piercing through him, through his defenses, sifting through layers of guilt and shame. "Who are you?" Sam demanded, his hand instinctively balling into a fist. "With time, you shall see, and you will wish you never ventured here." The voice was dark, each word curling like a serpent around his throat. He stood up, feeling the flush of adrenaline wipe away his previous exhaustion. No more running. Whoever or whatever this entity was, it wouldn't frighten him. He had faced his fears already, he could face this, but just as his resolve strengthened, the ground beneath him rumbled, releasing a fresh wave of tension. The blue light brightened, flickers of brilliant sapphire illuminating grotesque shapes looming within the shadows, figures of past regrets and haunting fears. They formed into a swirling tempest, swirling like a cyclone around him, drawing nearer, exuding an aura of despair. As Sam staggered backward, he understood. This was not merely a confrontation with his past, but a trial, a test of whether he could emerge whole. "I won't give up," he yelled defiantly. As he called out into the whirlwind, a sense of acceptance washed over him. He had to embrace all parts of himself, the light and the dark. The chaos intensified, voices screaming, shadows looming. Suddenly, a blinding light burst from within him, illuminating the cavern. The whispers faded, replaced by an echoing laughter that sounded remarkably like his own. "Good. That's it," the deep voice exclaimed, almost encouraging. "But can you face what truly awaits beyond?" The brightness tore apart the shadows, revealing a figure cloaked in darkness standing at the edge of the chamber. It raised its hand, and the air grew thick with anticipation. "What lies beyond that door?" Sam breathed, not certain he truly wanted to know. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest, raw and reckless. The figure chuckled softly, its voice laced with malice. "Your greatest fear, and your only chance. Are you brave enough to enter?" The door before him loomed, awaiting his decision, but what happened if he turned back? What if the shadows found him again? No turning back now. He took a step closer, heart in his throat, ready to make his choice. The door creaked open, revealing a swirling mist that obscured the room beyond. Sam hesitated, the chill of dread creeping down his spine. This was at the moment that would decide everything. He could feel the weight of the shadows behind him, pressing ever closer, whispering his failures and fears, urging him to retreat. But he had faced the darkness before. He needed to move, to confront what lay behind that door. With a steadying breath, he stepped through the threshold. The mist enveloped him, and the air shifted, warm and thick. Suddenly, a blinding light burst forth, illuminating a familiar scene, a long-forgotten moment from his childhood. He found himself standing in his old family home, the echoes of laughter and joy filling the space. The scent of baking cookies wafted through the air, and he could hear his mother's cheerful voice calling for him, but as quickly as the happiness came, it twisted into something darker. He glanced around the room, and the smiling faces of his family morphed into cold, accusing stares. "You abandoned us," his mother's echoing voice rang out. "You turned your back when we needed you the most." "No!" Sam shouted, heart racing. "I tried. I was scared. Tears threatened to spill from his eyes, as the memories flooded back, each one a reminder of the choices he wished he could change. The shadows began to creep in around him again, feeding off his regret and despair, pulling him deeper into darkness, tightening their grip. "Face it, Sam." That same ghostly man's voice rose from within the mist, urging him to confront the memories. "Face your truth, or be consumed." He remembered the hurt on his family's faces, the tears he had avoided, the times he didn't call when he should have. The darkness twisted around him, whispering his failures, and he felt himself wavering. But deep inside, he felt a flicker of light, the warmth of hope and strength. "I will not be defined by my mistakes," he yelled, voice hoarse, but determined. "I am more than this." As he spoke, the shadows recoiled, the light spilling from his heart radiating outward, pushing against the oppressive dark. With every ounce of resolve he could muster, Sam reached out to the figures of his past. "I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. I was afraid. But I am here. I see you now." The shadows screamed, thrashing around him as the light exploded from his core, illuminating the room. The memories of joy and pain twisted together, like threads intertwining. The family he missed so dearly intertwined with his resolve to change, to grow, and to embrace every piece of himself. As the shadows hissed and fell away, the room transformed into a safe haven, a sanctuary filled with love. The voices of his family softened, their faces now glowing with understanding and acceptance. "We forgive you, Sam," they whispered in unison, their warmth flooding over him like sunshine breaking through dark clouds, easing his heavy heart. With that forgiveness came liberation, an overwhelming sense of relief flooding his veins. In acknowledging both his darkness and light, he embraced the truth. He didn't have to be perfect, only whole. Suddenly, the ground beneath him trembled, and the chamber around him shifted. He felt the vibration of the Midnight Express again, carrying forward through the night. The conductor's laughter echoed from the shadows, but this time it felt different, less powerful, as if he had outgrown his hold. The darkness began to recede, melting away as if the very essence of light had banished it. Sam stood tall, heart full and lungs steady. "I choose to live," he declared, voice strong and unwavering. In that moment, the mist evaporated, and the train materialized before him in all its iron glory, shining with a radiant light. The animals of the night echoed with a new song, a melody of hope filling the air as he stepped onto the Midnight Express, a journey not just of survival, but one of redemption and renewal. As the train moved forward, distance from the shadows expanded, revealing friends and family smiling warmly. He looked back one last time, the conductor's figure faded into the mist, a mere wisp of the past. "Goodbye," Sam whispered, finally free from the chains of fear and regret. The Midnight Express flew onward into a brighter future, the weight of the rules lifted off his shoulders. And as the moon lit the tracks ahead, a spark of laughter bubbled forth, echoing with every heartbeat. A new beginning, a path of light illuminated before him, and as Sam looked forward, he realized that he had broken the curse of the Midnight Express. Never again would the darkness whisper his name. He had found his way home. If you love this journey, you need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on our next thrilling stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this epic conclusion with at least 5 friends who need to see it. Your engagement means the world to us.